Okay, so my name is Mladen Maravic, as it was already mentioned, and yes, I'm basically a software architect at Repsly, and my most important role at Repsly is guiding Repsly through their transition to AWS, and I'm also doing a lot of stuff related to NoSQL databases, so MongoDB and Elasticsearch, because Repsly is a very large user and proponent of these technologies. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is I wanted to tell you a little bit about how we became users of AWS. And from my own perspective, it kind of seemed to me like a marriage deal. Okay, so I'm a happily married guy, so I guess that qualifies me to talk about marriage a bit. Because choosing your infrastructure providers, choosing your cloud provider is in some ways like choosing who you're going to marry, because it's not that simple to just go away from one provider to another provider. I mean, in certain instances it's simple, but I really don't think it's that simple. So essentially, Repsly is a product company. We have a product, we serve users all over the world, we work 24/7, we don't have a downtime period, we can't even, it's difficult even to schedule something like a downtime period. And we've been, for a number of years, been hosted at SoftLayer. Our company, we have a product that's organically grown, So it started off as this monolithic piece of software, and in many respects it still is, unfortunately. And so, we gained traction, we gained customers, we gained market share, and throughout all this time, we had to add a whole bunch of functionalities in there, and we just simply had to grow. And certain things, certain architectural decisions were made, okay, I'm going to say 10 years ago. Boris, correct me if I'm wrong, because that's the guy who did them. And yeah, it's all on you, sorry. And, we were in SoftLayer, we had a really simple setup. A couple of bare metal servers, hypervisor on them, and then just, a few virtual machines running, and that was it, Unfortunately for us, SoftLayer, it's a nice company, but it's expensive. We didn't really like those guys too much. And looking forward, we really didn't see that they had everything that we would like to have. And there was just so many stuff out there that we would essentially have to do on our own instead of just, buying. So, let's say beginning of 2018, we decided to leave SoftLayer and we started planning on how to go to AWS because we picked AWS. I'm not going to go into why we picked AWS. That could be a presentation of its own. I will say, though, which is very, very interesting, that we are a .NET-based company. So I guess a presentation about why AWS and no Azure might be interesting, but I'm really not going to go there. Let's just say that I'm also a Java guy, and this guy is a .NET guy, so it's wholly worst in the company all the time. So yeah, I'll still clear of that. And so on the November 4th, 2018, we actually did the migration to AWS. It was a lift and shift migration, meaning, it was relatively simple. We had VMware machines. All you had to do was export them and import them into AWS, run everything, and it worked. We really wanted to do it like this simply because, as I said, we are a 24/7 business. We can't actually have a lot of downtime. So we said, okay, let's just do a little step. Let's just go from SoftLayer to AWS. Hopefully everything still works the same, or at least better. Okay, we'll see. And that's what we did then. Okay, so this is roughly 11 months later on, and the whole idea for me is to just simply tell you what it is that we've learned over these 11 months, what we like about AWS, and I will tell you what we don't like. So, as I said, after the migration, we were a very, very simple tech stack. Okay, so our EC2 instances are here. Yep, I mean we just lift and shifted all of our servers. We always used S3 for storage, and of course we had to put some load balancer in front of all these EC2 instances, and that was it. Essentially, this was still an infrastructure that contained 6 or 7 smallish servers, and that's it. We're also very heavy users of some external things, like for example, we used Elastic Cloud for our Elasticsearch needs, and we used Mongo Atlas. You will notice here that we are kind of a big when it comes to outsourcing some of our core infrastructure pieces. We like to do that, so that's what we do. We like to focus on what it is that we do as a company, developing our products, not having system engineers or somebody like that. So, essentially, after the lift and shift, everything stayed the same. What were the benefits? Just one: money. I mean, it's plain and simple. I guess everything is cheaper than SoftLayer, especially after they became an IBM company. So, figure that. So this is something like our stack for a month or two, and then we started playing. For an IT guy, for a programmer or a software architect, working with AWS, it's like having a kid brought into a candy store. You go into the console, you select, services, and Jesus, there's just so many. What can I do with that? So what guys actually started doing was we started playing, we started adding stuff. I mean, it's such a beautiful experience. You get to AWS, you're there, you have all these services available to you, and you also have your own product managers, all these people who come up with beautiful features that we can implement and add to our software, and then suddenly you'll see ideas popping up. And although this was cheaper than SoftLayer, we soon got here. We are no longer cheaper than SoftLayer. Yeah, shit happens, right? This is what happens, I guess, when you let your engineers start playing with stuff, So as you can see, we added 3 times the application load balancer than what we had before, because, 1, I mean, who needs just 1, 3 is better. We were like spoiled with AWS. In a SoftLayer, a load balancer is a few dollars, $2Ks, yeah, that's how much it costs. This is $25, right, if I'm not mistaken. So, who cares? We'll add another one and another one and another one. It's okay. We also started dabbling a little bit into ACS. Not much. We are, first of all, a .NET company, so we have some issues there. I mean, I'm not going to call them issues. Sorry, that's the wrong word. Challenges. It's going to be interesting. Yeah. I mean, what can I say? I keep telling these guys to switch to Java, but they don't want to listen, so what the heck. So we also started using web application firewalls. Then there's all these lovely features called shared file systems, so FSX and Elastic File System, depending on, well, I mean, we do have a couple of Linux servers, to be fair. I don't know how I managed to squeeze them by these guys, but I did. There's also all of this beautiful security stuff, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. And you will also notice that we managed to migrate one more external service to AWS. So we were extremely dissatisfied with Elastic Cloud. I don't know if anybody's using Elastic Cloud here. No? Okay, cool. Well, I can tell you all about their downtime. Okay. Well, we switched to ES as part of the AWS offerings. Worked pretty well for us, no problems. Managed to switch without downtime, so we're pretty happy with that. Although we do have certain clusters that are not managed by AWS, but that's our problem and not AWS's problem. So, in all fairness, that's on us. Okay, so I just want to give you a little, examples of the stuff we found was extremely cheap and extremely simple to do once we switched to AWS. So first of all, I said trolls, but I'm actually going to call them Russian teenagers, because that's what they are. So you have a bunch of Russian teenagers sitting at home, they're extremely bored, they heard about this thing called hacking, so they run these fabulous scripts that keep hitting some certain pages of our application, and you use a web, for example, a web application firewall was a fantastic tool to get rid of them. These are really not hackers, you get thousands of requests from a single IP server, from a certain IP address for like a week. So that's not a hacker, sorry, that's a script, But it's very, very easy for us to do these kinds of things, which are extremely cheap, extremely effective, and what's even better, you don't need a network wizard or a system admin who knows, Apache server configuration and Nginx server configuration and everything. You just let loose your guys on the Amazon console, and they can very easily exclude certain IP addresses or even geolocations. And what I really, really like is the fact that you can very easily rate limit them. So at one point we just rate limited the whole Russia for, I think it was 1 request per minute. Worked really well. And as I said, it's extremely cheap, it's extremely simple to do, and we kind of like this because this is the kind of stuff that we really, really like to be able to do all the time. Second of all, being a company that is constantly evolving its software, well, we really, really wanted to be able to simply test next versions of our software. So, you can call it A/B testing, canary testing, call it whatever you want. Before, we simply didn't have any means to do it really simply. So we decided to give a basic Route 53 a go with the traffic flow policies, and that actually turned out pretty well. So it's now extremely simple for us. Remember, we are a company that has customers worldwide. So for us, this was like, okay, well, why don't we, let's say, pick the Croatian customers and send them to a different version of our site. Let's see how much they scream. If they don't scream too much, we'll give it to the rest of the world as well. Okay, works very easily. It's very, very simple. And what we really, really like, so with these traffic flow policies, you can create policies not just based on regions. You can do other stuff as well, specific headers and so on. So you can actually select a group of your customers and so on. So it's a nice feature. Again, for us, what we like really, really much is that it's simple, it's really cheap, and it just does what it's supposed to do. So that's for example the second thing we did. And then comes the whole plethora of tools. If you're lucky enough to become a company like Repsly, which is now getting more and more traction, we're getting more and more customers, but most importantly, we're getting big customers. You're gonna find yourself in problems, or not, most probably will, where these customers come and start talk to you about the security of your product. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so what do you do with data? How do you store data? Who has access to data? Who has access to your servers? Who does this? Who does that? Suddenly you become, it's like you have to become regulated like a bank or something, And to help you out on this journey, we realized that AWS actually has a couple of very interesting offerings which in itself will not solve your security issues, problems, challenges, whatever. They absolutely won't. But if you use them, they are really cheap and they are really, really good at giving you like this nice baseline of security, which I guess most of us don't have. I mean, if you have a startup, if that startup is not security specific startup, I guess you do not care about security until, somebody actually starts asking you about it. So for us, this is really great. Guard duty, okay, that's nice. That's a very nice tool that can tell you if anything is going on inside your VPC that's a bit fishy. But what I really, really like is the inspector with Security Hub. Inspector actually looks at your machines. It can even put an agent on it and then do some additional tests. And then it doesn't just give you a list of its findings. It also tells you what you need to fix. The bad thing about it is that once we turned on the inspector for our, I don't even think we have 10 servers, the list was excruciatingly long. And it's probably going to happen to everybody because some of those things on that list, I mean, I haven't seen it in the banking industry. So, it's going to be a pain, but, sooner or later you're going to have to you'll have to tackle it. So, yeah, that's it. But it's a nice tool. It doesn't cost very much. Inspector and Guard Duty, I think they even have like a 30-day free trial or something. So it's, you can just turn it on and see what comes up. Yeah, nice tool. So these were just a couple of examples of the stuff we really liked in AWS. But you have to remember that as a company, we still have a product which is partially a monolith. And we still we know that we have a long, long journey ahead of us in becoming what somebody coined this morning as a cloud-native product or app. We're not there yet, okay? So we're still running on our EC2 servers. We're still just looking at Docker. So these are all things that, we still have to work on. Hopefully, I'm going to be here next year. I'll be able to tell you that we are one step closer to that, but we're not right now. I know, Boris, I know you're very impatient. Yeah. If we don't do it, I promise you, you're going to be doing the presentation next year why we didn't do it. Yeah. Okay, so there was a nice presentation this morning where a guy, I don't know if he's here, said that he really liked CloudFormation. I hate it. Sorry. I guess him and I could have a panel. What we discovered was that CloudFormation, for us at least, was a nice tool for smaller pieces of infrastructure. He uses it, for example, for, I think it was, let's say, each and every small individual app. It could actually make sense as a small individual piece of his entire stack. For us, it doesn't work. We switched to Terraform. And there's this new thing called Terraform Cloud, which also gives you a nice console, so, why not? And also what we wanted to do with this is that we wanted to have a script that would essentially be a part of our disaster recovery procedure. What that means for us is that you can have, let's call it a script, call it whatever you want. So we want a tool that you can run, and it's going to create our entire infrastructure, let's say in another region, start everything up from our backups, and we'll be up and running. I know it sounds like a pipe dream. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's doable. We're still in the process of doing that. But we're actually pretty close to that. So hopefully this is going to work. There's also another thing that I want to mention when it comes to Terraform and CloudFormation. We do have all this external stuff, like Mongo Atlas, for example. And that's something that we can't do with CloudFormation. Well, not at all. It would have to be a hack. With Terraform, we do it out of the box. So for us, Terraform makes a lot more sense. Also, the second thing that we also struggled with a lot, and most importantly, we struggled with it just in the recent month or so, was the actual instance sizing. So instance sizing in AWS it's not exactly that simple. Unless, of course, you're going serverless, then you don't care about your instance size. But if you're not doing serverless and you have to pick an EC2 instance, there's just so many things you can pick first. I mean, C, R, M, and so on. Then when it comes to disks, what kind of disks you like, and so on. What we realized is that, first of all, you need to be able to measure your needs. And if you have an existing environment, if you don't measure how your environment's actually using your CPU, your RAM, and your disk, then you're probably going to, you're either going to be using too much money because you're going to have an instance that's too big, or you're going to have a too small instance and it's not going to work for you. The one thing that truly bit us in the ass was the fact that each EC2 instance has a limit, an instance limit, to EBS volume throughputs. This means that no matter how quick and fast and expensive disks you attach to your EC2 instance, they may not be so performant because the instance itself cannot go over a certain threshold. I'm not saying it's a bad thing when the AWS people are doing something wrong. I'm just saying look it up and be mindful of this, because we certainly didn't, and then we learned this the hard way. Okay, so all of these limits are sensible, they're just fine, but you really have to know these limits, and then you have to work within those limits in whatever way you can. Also, from our pure experience, the A instances, this C5A, M5A, and so on, are very nice instances to use. We didn't really have much problems with them. They're a little bit cheaper, they're a little bit less performant than the normal ones, but let's say the ratio of performance and money is just fine. Also, we use A1 instances. A1 instances are the ARM-based instances. I don't know if anybody's using them. We're using them actually to run an entire Elasticsearch cluster on them that chews a tremendous amount of data every day, and it actually works. It's incredible what you can run on a iPhone processor-like machine. So, and the same is also very, very nice on those machines. So I would just suggest anybody, if you can live with ARM as a hardware architecture, try them out. They're actually very, very nice. Okay, and so finally, I've come to the actual end of it, because I was so hesitant to put in a slide which will say whether we still like being married to AWS or not. I wouldn't say that we're no longer in a honeymoon period. Okay, we're still in love. Okay, marriage is still good. It's just that we've learned a lot so far, and we still have a very, very long road ahead of us in terms of becoming a truly cloud-native company. And so we'll see where it gets us in a year. And if anybody else is doing the same thing or considering doing the thing that we've just done, feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to exchange ideas or exchange knowledge. So if you're doing something like this, give us a shout. We'll tell you what we've learned, and everywhere we hit a wall, it's fine by us. Okay, so if anybody has any questions for us, sure.
That Terraform was a good choice. But was it also because you maybe intend to become multi-cloud in the future?
It might be. It might also be something like that. We need to be mindful. I mean, we have investors to answer to. What their ideas might be, who knows? And where exactly we as a company will grow in the future, we have absolutely no idea. I mean, we're going really fast, which is great, but where exactly is that going to lead us? With Terraform, at least, we will have the option of not staying, within AWS. So who knows? But I mean, as we continue to mount the number of AWS services I mean, we're now looking at stuff like, yes, serverless, lambdas, API gateways, um, I don't know, a lot of stuff, for the next year. We have big plans. We'll see where that takes us, but, we just never know. With Terraform, at least, we will have, some kind of flexibility.
Because with Terraform and containers, you would be in good shape to move things around.
Yes. But unfortunately for containers, as I said, parts of our app are monolithic. It's not easy to containerize. And then, .NET and stuff like that, But it's going to be interesting. I mean, we tried already certain things, and they do work. So, we'll see. Yes?
Yeah, so I have a question. So in the introduction, you mentioned you migrated away from SoftLayer to AWS.
Yes.
Lift and shift.
Yes.
So how do you do that? Make an image, restore to EC2, or?
Yeah. We made. So we exported our VMware images, and then they were imported, which meant that in the AWS we got an AMI out of all those images, and then we just started up our machines. With database servers, we didn't do exactly that. I mean, we did that, but we just restored our data from backups, so it was a bit quicker. I mean, all in all, we had a downtime of, I think, something like an hour, and we did it.
You didn't do the lift and shift for databases, you restored directly to RDS?
We don't use RDS. No. First of all, we have our own, so we use SQL Server. We have our own licenses for SQL Server. I know we could probably use them with RDS, but nevertheless. But we've invested heavily in our own knowledge when it comes to the SQL Server and tweaking it to what we need. And this is, we're not going to be able to have the same degree of customization available to us if we go to the RDS. But we'll probably be using RDS for testing environment, staging, and stuff like that. So, yeah, we're going to have a mix. Sure.
Thank you for sharing your story. As MongoDB users, what do you think about AWS Simple DB?
DocumentDB, yeah. Okay, so when we started this, we were, of course, not on AWS. So MongoDB was used before we even considered AWS. We didn't even test it. That's the short answer. Okay, we didn't really test it, so we don't know. Right now, MongoDB works for us fine. We're very happy as Mongo Atlas users. It works really, really well. They actually place your database instances in a VPC at the same region, so you can create a VPC peering link between them. Everything works really well. Their service, so far, we haven't had okay, I don't know how many years we've been using Mongo Atlas, but it didn't have a single downtime that would be caused by them. So, right now we really don't even have a strong case for making a switch or migrating. It's not the same as, for example, with Elastic Cloud. Okay, so this is really a different story. Sure.
So, what are your plans on AWS in the next period? So you're monolithic, yeah? Still monolithic, or
Sorry?
planning to move to microservices?
Yes, absolutely. Microservices, Docker. So we essentially have to cover two things. That's high availability and scalability. So that's our main goals. So as we see it, certain pieces of our monolith will, in some ways, still remain a monolith. We will just Dockerize them. And for everything else, we are already building microservices. We just simply didn't Dockerize them, which, okay, I mean, it's relatively trivial to do. And once we do that, we will be able to essentially build the entire continuous deployment pipeline that we currently don't have. I mean, unfortunately, but, we never took the time to do it. So, it's definitely in the plans. Let's say, I think next year. Yeah.
You said, I mentioned earlier that you're using Terraform. So how?
Just started.
Only one person responsible for the whole Terraform configuration and writing the code?
At this time, yes, it'll probably be 2.
So you're planning to make them, how do you say in English?
Scalable. In the future, they will have to use Terraform simultaneously. So are you segmenting your...
Yes. We're doing that. Yeah, we will definitely be segmenting them, and I'm sure that we've already started it as a company, you know. So we have. Okay, I'm not going to count them now in heads. We have a certain number of developers, and it was very interesting because when we switched to AWS, and I just we did a little internal education regarding AWS, and we realized that none of them have ever done anything with AWS. So first of all, the idea is to educate everybody on the team about what AWS, what are all the services that we use, and so on. Eventually, yes, they all need to understand how we use Terraform, how this, you know, they should be able to write, well, okay, maybe not write from scratch those scripts, but at least update them as you know, as we add things to our infrastructure because of some functionalities or some other requirements. Wow, I didn't expect so many questions. Come on, people, it's technical conference, it's coffee. Shall we go to coffee? Well then, thank you very much. If anybody needs me, I'm here.